never had a girl like you.
When we locked eyes, when you passed, couldn't look away.
Ain't never met a girl like you.
Welcome guys to my video. Today we are going to be doing a end of the week check-in / game night. I am so excited to do this game night, and we're going to do a story time with it. But first, let's go ahead and get our end of the week check-in out the way, and then I'll tell you all about my story time. So here are the daily cash envelopes that we have. I'm going to move these to the side. So here's the daily cash envelopes that we have, and these were made by Mellz Studio Designs, also known as Mellz Budget on YouTube. And if you guys saw my last video, it was like in the middle of the week that I recorded doing my stuffing, or that I did my cash stuffing. So obviously I didn't spend that much, but hey, if you give me a challenge, I will succeed. I spent, this is my back to bank envelope, but I spent all of my gas. I spent all of my eat out. Didn't spend self-care, miscellaneous, or groceries. I did spend some money in miscellaneous, so let's go ahead and unstuff that now and see where we are. I think I'm gonna put this to the side. So the first thing I have is money for groceries. Let's see what this is. I already know what it is. I didn't touch anything. I didn't buy any groceries. When we came back home, our mother-in-law was watching our dog, or my mother-in-law was watching our dogs. So she kind of like stocked her fridge as well. So we didn't have to get anything. So I'm really grateful for that, and grateful for her too. But we have 20, 30, 40, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, and 100. I already broke these down into smaller denominations for our game night because we're going to use this money for game night. So I'm going to put this to the side. That's that. And then the next thing I have is miscellaneous. So miscellaneous has $5, $6, $7, $8, $9. I'm actually going to put this in my rollover envelope because if you don't remember, I am doing the Save with Baddie challenge, and depending on how many likes her savings challenge video gets, we have to save $1 per 100 likes. And I saw that the last number was like 800 likes. So I'm just going to put all this money to the side, and then when she posts her video and tells us how much we have to put aside in our savings challenge, which is this envelope that I'm using, I will go ahead and do that. So I'll have that money already set. Yeah. And the last thing I have is self-care, and that money was it was $10. I'm just going to leave that in there, so that I was only going to put like $10 again. So now that I have $10, I'm just going to roll it over to the next week. So let's go ahead and stuff our envelopes for next week so that we can get to game night. So for groceries, we have 20, 40, 60, 80, 90, 95, and 100. Going to put that in here. And I've been making my list for groceries. I think I'm actually going to go into the store this time because I did get added on to I did add on Sam's Club, so I'm going to go to Sam's Club and Walmart. We'll see how it goes. I might just be able to go to Walmart because I did plan some meals, and I put, like, if I do go into the store at Walmart, I don't just go blindly. I'll add stuff to my Walmart app shopping cart, so then I'll just shop off of that, so I won't just be buying, you know, things I don't need and stuff like that. All right, so for miscellaneous, we're going to be adding $10, $20, and $25. Okay. And next one we have is gas. And now that I have Sam's Club, I can get Sam's Club gas prices. So I'm excited about that. Gas is going to get $20, $25, and $30. And the last thing we have is eat out. I don't know if I'm going to use this money or not. We'll see. I hope not. But we have $20, $30, and $35. All right, and then our self-care is going to get rolled over. So this is our envelopes, and this is our little bracelet that we carry our money in. This wallet is from the J Square collection, and this is where I carry all my cards and my ID. So that's that. The next thing I'm going to do is the weekly challenge. All right, so this is the Fall into September challenge, and we are going to be doing week 2. Let me change this around. Y'all, this is not going to be good. Y'all, look, disclaimer, just like Oh My Fro Budget said, I cannot color like that, for real, like, and doing this on camera and talking, the anxiety is out of this world. Oh my god, my hand is shaking. All right, so this is the Fall into Savings challenge from Chris Budgets. Her Etsy shop is Chris Prints It on Etsy, and she created this challenge herself. You can purchase it on her website. I think it was like $1 to $2 or something like that. It's not expensive at all. And the goal is to save $20 per week, with the final number being $100. So what I'm going to do, where I'm going to get this money from, my husband gave me $100 as well for game night. So I'm just going to take 2 5s and a 10. So that'll be $20. So 10, 15, 20. And I'm going to put it in my debt envelope, which is also going to be participating in game night as well. So this money that I saved for this challenge is going to go towards debt. So now we have 10, 20, 30, 35, and $40. And then next week we're going to be stuffing another $20. All right, so that completes all of the hard work. Let's get to the fun stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and set up my money and my game night setup, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. Had to take the sweater off because it got a little warm in here. So this is gonna be our setup. We're gonna kind of do it in half so that, you know, we can spread the love a little bit with our envelopes. So the first set is going to be Thanksgiving, self-care, Black Friday and Christmas, emergency fund, car, gifts, and shopping. And the second half is going to be Amazon Prime, tech, medical, debt, vacation, Christmas gifts, Melissa, and household. Melissa is me. And then all the clear zipper envelopes were created by me, and you can find them on my Etsy shop. So I'm not going to be using the iPad today because I kind of fell asleep watching Captain America earlier. So I'm going to be using these cards. These are some just regular playing cards that I got from Izzy and Liv. If you know them, they have a website, or I think they still have a website, but they do a lot of, you know, Black Girl Magic products. So I love these, you know, these little black queens on here, and they're only on like the bigger cards. Yeah. So let's start with this. So I'm going to turn these around. I'm going to shuffle, and then I'm going to pick a card. And whatever card I pick, that's the number of the envelope that I have to stuff. So how this game works is, the whole point of the game is, like, if I have extra money that I don't really know exactly which envelope to put it in or which sinking fund to put it in, I'll play a game night. That way it's random and it's kind of fun, and then it'll choose it for me and tell me which, you know, envelope to put my money in. I broke it up in smaller denominations. I have like one $20 bill, a couple tens, and then the rest are fives. So before we draw the first card, this story time is going to be a little bit more medical. If you don't know, I am a pharmacist and I work in a hospital setting. So this is going to be like my first time responding to a cardiac arrest or code blue. So if you guys watch Grey's Anatomy, The Resident, what other shows are there? Chicago Med. You know, when the patient like kind of goes unresponsive, then we start doing chest compressions. There's a difference between basic life support and ACLS. Basic life support is just when a patient, like when somebody falls down in public or something, you kind of do chest compressions. They don't recommend giving mouth to mouth anymore unless you have like your own device that kind of, which is like a barrier from giving direct mouth to mouth treatment. But they recommend like chest compressions and, you know, basic stuff like that. ACLS is what we call advanced cardiac life support, and that's when you're kind of pulling out all the stops. So that's where you're also doing chest compressions, but you're also providing breathing treatment with the device, of course. And you also are, you know, doing your AED or defibrillator, and you are giving medications that could help save the patient's life. Most of the medications that we give in every situation is epinephrine, and we just kind of push it and do chest compressions and, you know, alternatively. So you do chest compressions, you try to check for a pulse. The whole goal of doing ACLS is to get a patient back to ROS. And if you watch doctor shows, they're like, okay, we got ROS, or or ROS was achieved, and ROS is just return of spontaneous circulation. So that's when we feel a pulse. So when we don't feel a pulse, then we start chest compressions, and the patient is pretty much gone. And then we try to get them back by doing chest compressions, medications, other, you know, life-saving tactics. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I hope I don't trigger anyone, but I'm not going to go like too, you know, deep into it. Just going to go from my point of view. It's going to be kind of light, but I do recognize that this is a serious situation. So let's go ahead and pick our first card, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I shuffled them, and I'm going to pick the middle card, and we have 3. So I'm going to go to the third envelope. And that's our Black Friday and Christmas envelope. And I'm closing my eyes. So every time I dig in this jar, guys, my eyes are going to be closed so that I don't have to like keep saying it. And we picked out a 5. I'm also going to be using my trackers because I want to keep track of how much money I'm putting in here. And then we will count it at the end. So we're putting 5. Probably going to do my trackers later. So we put 5 in there. Let's go ahead and shuffle this again. So most of my stories are going to be from when I was a resident. I'm not going to go too much into detail again because, you know, I don't want to get in trouble. I do have my drink on the side. It's my cranberry rum. So it's a lit situation. But so my first situation was obviously in residency. We have different hospital units. We have like internal medicine, that's just a general medicine floor. You know, if a patient has like hypertension, or if they have AFib or diabetes issues, you know, something that's non-critical, they go to the internal medicine floor. And the patient is critical and they need more monitoring. They need a nurse that has more time to check on them and give them more attention more frequently. Then they'll go to what we call an ICU or intensive care unit. So my first situation was a stat team. A stat team is kind of like, hey, y'all need to get y'all behinds out here now. Like a patient is not necessarily unresponsive, but they may be having breathing issues, or they may be, you know, how do I say this? They may be kind of having an emergency pretty much. It's not like an emergency, but it's like an urgent situation where they may need breathing treatment. They may need some medication. They may need like an infusion or something like that. So that was a stat team. And first of all, let me go ahead and put out my PSA right now. I am not offering any medical advice. This is strictly my experience and my point of view. I'm not giving any medical advice. I am a medical professional, but that's not what we're doing here today. So that's my little disclaimer. So they called a stat team, and the stat team is like, yo, you need to get your behind here ASAP. I was doing a rotation, and when I say rotation, we rotate through different areas of the hospital. Like, you know, for a few weeks, I'll be on the internal medicine floor. For a few weeks, I'll be training on the ICU floor, and it's just training in order to prepare myself and learn more applicable treatment and applicable care of patients. So you learn in class, then you go on rotations for the last year in school. Once you graduate pharmacy school, you either have the option to go straight into work, or you can do a residency program, which is kind of like what doctors do. Like if you see the resident, you know, like it's a residency program, or if you see Grey's Anatomy, that's the same thing. It's a residency program. Like medical doctor residency programs are way more rigorous, way more time consuming than pharmacy programs. We do like a PGY1 and PGY2. So we have like 1 year. You can do a residency for 1 year, or you can go and do 2 years. And when you do 2 years, you're specializing in a specific area. When you only do 1 year, you are kind of like generalized in, you know, hospital setting. But 2 years is where you specialize in maybe administration or cardiology or something like that. I've heard rumors of a PGY3, a 3rd year, but I'm not sure how common that is. So I was in my first year of residency. I only did 1 year residency, and then I went into practice. But I was in my first year of residency, and I have patients that I round on. We round every day, and then we work up certain patients that are ours. And I heard a stat team called for a patient who was actually mine. We have the 4th envelope, 3 and 4 shopping. All right, we got $5. So I heard that we're putting $5 for shopping. That's cool. So I heard they were calling a stat team on the patient that was mine, and I'm like, ooh, like that's my patient. You know, we should probably go check it out. We have what we call like a preceptor, which is the person that trains us in that specific area. So I went there with my preceptor, and we, go check out the scene, see what's going on. And he basically was having like a breathing issue. Like he couldn't breathe that well, and he was kind of like what we call desatting. So that's what was going on. The most awkward thing for me, like in the beginning of my training, was like the family. And the family was there, but at the same time, like he was like an older Black man. And for me, like my sense of culture, and like my sense of my ethnicity and my sense of my culture, I was like, I really felt like so connected to him. Like I didn't talk to him or anything, stuff like that, but I did feel connected because, I just kind of got like personalized myself with the situation. Like, man, like he literally could be my dad, or like my grandpa. Like that could be my grandfather, that could be my dad. So it kind of connected with me a lot more. And it was so weird because he was just like up and talking, and they were like, oh yeah, during rounds they were like, yeah, he's looking good, such and such, whatever. And then it was like he wasn't looking good anymore, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is my first experience, guys, dealing with this. So obviously, I was very, inexperienced, untrained, and whatever. So we have envelope 2, and that's going to Thanksgiving, because that's good, because Thanksgiving is the next holiday coming up. So I'm putting 5. So yeah, so we went up there, they ordered medications, and my preceptor, who's also a pharmacist, she was like, verifying orders and making sure they were correct and stuff like that, making sure the patient was getting like the stuff they needed. So I was just like, in my head, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so sad. I want to cry so bad. But I'm like, Melissa, you cannot cry. Like, I was like, Melissa, you better not freaking cry. Like, you better not freaking cry. In my mind, it seems unprofessional. It seems unprofessional, and it's embarrassing amongst your colleagues. And to me, it's embarrassing to the family. It's embarrassing for me to the family if I'm crying. Like, imagine you're the patient and you see a doctor. You don't know that they're just in training. You just see them in a white coat. You may not know exactly what their title is, but you see a white coat person at the code or at the stat team crying. Like, I would be like, excuse me, if you can't keep it together, how can I keep it together? Like, how can you expect the patient to keep it together and you over there crying? Also, if I was the patient's family, I would be like, bruh, I don't need you over here crying right now. I need you to save my family's, like, I need you to save my loved one's life. Like, I need you to get it together, pull your ish together, and, you know, get to going. Like, do something to help him. Don't just sit there and cry. So that was my thinking of like, yo, don't you be no punk. Like, you're not about to be sitting here and crying in front of a freaking family. Like, that's not what we're doing here. So I pulled myself together. For my role at that time was just to, you know, observe. ACE is going to be our number one. So emergency fund. That's awesome. Love that for me. It's going to get $10 or $5. So yeah, I was like, bruh, Melissa, you better not cry in front of all these people, bruh. Like, you're not about to embarrass yourself like that. And for the family or for like a loved one or a patient, you may not understand, but it's just like in a medical setting, if I was to cry, like, they'll be like, yo, this girl's I would never get respect ever. Like, throughout the whole hospital, like, they would never respect me because I can't keep my ish together. Like, the whole point of being in an emergency is being able to focus, get it together, and do what needs to be done. Play your role, play your part. And there's no part in a stat team and ACLS and a code blue that requires crying. So there's none of that. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Black Friday again. Ooh. So I'm going to dig. Ooh. Black Friday got the 20. Which is good because I really, like I said in my last video, I need to beef this up. So that's awesome. And then we're going to count, you know, what we have at the end. So that's that. So yeah. So pretty much they got him together. When we say we upgraded someone, that means we took to a higher level of care. So he was on the internal medicine floor and they took him to the ICU at the time. And that was that. Technically, when a patient is no longer your patient, you're not supposed to like follow them or like, you know, look at their profile or their what is that called? Their chart to see what's going on with them. And technically you're not supposed to do that. So I'm gonna leave that. All right. So we have number 2, and that is going to be gifts. That's pretty good. I'm excited for that. So I chose envelopes that I wanted to stuff that needed more money. I didn't choose envelopes that, you know, I wasn't like pressed for, if that makes sense. Like envelopes that don't really need extra money right now. Like babies. Sorry guys. So like babies, Wilson Babies doesn't need extra money right now. My parents, I have a plan for them, so they don't really need extra money. Stuff like that. Let's go ahead and shuffle. I probably didn't shuffle that last one. That's fine though. Let's take this again. All right. And let's go. All right. So then my first, I can't remember if it was an actual code blue. When we say code blue, it means cardiac arrest. It means the patient is not responsive. They lost a pulse. That's what that means. So when I say code blue, that's what I mean. We got envelope 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to be shopping. And we got $5. So my first like real emergency. What? And this is where, you know, you start getting more responsibility. So I was starting my first day of my ICU rotation. And when you're doing any rotation, especially ICU, you get to the hospital early. You have a specific number of patients. You want to work up those patients. And when we say work up, it means look at their charts, see what their labs are, see what medications that they're on, make sure it's appropriate, see if you can suggest to start or stop any medications, see what's going on with the patient and stuff like that. So I'm working up patients, you know, minding my little business. First day, wet behind the ears kind of thing. Like, my preceptor wasn't even there at the time I was there because I was so early. He was still like downstairs in the main pharmacy and I was upstairs on the floor. So they call an emergency and I'm like, oh wow, you know, like I and another one of my co-residents, we went to go see what was happening and we were like, oh, okay, so this is what they're doing. They're, you know, doing their ACLS, chest compressions and stuff like that. And then they finally get him back and, I mean, I say get him back, they got a pulse. So they finally got a pulse and they were like, okay, cool, you know, now the thing is to like, you know, stabilize him, do what needs to be done, stuff like that. So I walk away, you know, minding my business. I'm like, all right, cool. They got, they achieved Ross. They got some circulation. They got a pulse. I'm doing this the wrong way. Sorry, y'all. I'm like, okay, cool. So we got the patient back. Let me go back and, you know, finish working on my patients. And then all I hear is pharmacy. I'm like, so in the hospital, when they call pharmacy, they're calling me. If I'm the pharmacist or whatever pharmacist is on the floor or it's a pharmacy technician, they're calling us. They don't like, they didn't know my name because it was my first day. So they're like, pharmacy, are you from pharmacy? I'm like, yeah. They were like, oh, the doctor wants you. And I'm like, why? I'm like, what he want me for? Like, it's my first day. What you want me for? So he's like, so I go up there and I go in the room and I was like, hey, how can I help you? He's like, are you pharmacy? I was like, yeah. He's like, I need a Nimbex drip stat. And I'm like, all right, cool, bet. I'm gonna go get that for you. And then as I'm walking away, I'm like, as soon as I find out what Nimbex is, I will get that for him. So this next one is 2, and that's the car envelope. And we are putting $5 in car. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that for you. Bet. Say less. Whatever you want, sir. Period. Like, I'm gonna get it for you. And I'm walking away. I'm like, yeah, as soon as I figure out what Nimbex is. So I go real quick, type in Nimbex, and I see what it's for. I mean, I see what it is. And it's like a paralytic. So I rush downstairs and I'm like, preceptor, they need Nimbex. They need it right now. The patient, he coded. They need it right now. He's like, all right, cool. You know, let's get it for him. Like, he's like real cool and calm. And I'm just like, don't we need to hurry up? Like, in my head, I'm like, why are you not freaking out? Like, I'm freaking out. Like, this is like serious. But he is so seasoned, so trained. He's like one of the best that I've trained under. And I've had, actually, like all of them that I've trained under were the best of the best. But he was like really involved, like overachiever. So he knew what he was doing. He was very smooth, real calm with it. And then we got that patient, the medication. We got them that Nimbex real quick. And yeah, it was no worries. Ace, Black Friday, again. All right, let's go. Let's dig at the bottom. And we got 5. So yeah, that was like my first crazy situation. I'm like, dang, like, look at all this ish happening the first day of rotation. And our hospital was so busy that we probably had like a code, if not every day, then every other day. And sometimes it would be like 2 or 3 a day. So we took care of very, very critical patients. Let's go ahead and shuffle again. All right, number 4. 1, 2, 3, and car again. So we're digging and we're gonna get 5. So my next code blue, I'm not gonna say my next because there were several, and you know, at this point, this was like years ago, so it was kind of like a blur. I don't forget like the patients, but I forget like the timeline. So I would say like the next one I had is like another one I had is like a patient that came into like the ER, and I want to say so I don't know if that was like the first patient. I'm gonna talk about the other patient. So there's like a patient in the ER, right? She was apparently like the staff said she was chilling, she was up eating, and then all of a sudden like she was unresponsive, lost the pulse. So this lady, like, it was so crazy because this lady, they literally did everything for her. Like, they gave her everything that they felt was appropriate for her. And so we even ran out of epinephrine. So I'm running to like what we have like is like a Pyxis machine, and that holds all of our medication. For emergencies, we use a code cart, right? So a code cart is something quick that you can bring with you. It has all your IVs. It has like your we call diluents, like normal saline, dextrose, stuff like that. It has all your medications, like your life-saving medications. It even has like the defibrillator on top of it. So everything you need is in that cart, minus like needles and stuff like that. We got 2 Black Friday again. We just got 2 10s, so I'm just gonna grab one of these. Oh, I lied. Okay, let me close my eyes then. We got a 5. So that's our code card. It has like a certain number of epi pushes in there, and it comes with a lot. So we used all of the epi in there, so we had to like go and find more. So that was my job. I went and found like some more medications that we could use for the code. And then my preceptor, she was like, our role as a pharmacist in a code situation is to prepare medications for administration. And when I say that, we have epi, I'm gonna keep saying epi, but it's epinephrine. We have epinephrine syringes. We have to open the box, you know, pop off the covers, assemble them, you know, prime them, and then hand them to the nurse for administration. As a pharmacist, we are not able to administer drugs, but we can do chest compressions, and we can, you know, assist in other ways besides medications. Sometimes we have to prepare like an infusion for a patient on site. All infusions ideally should be prepared in a sterile IV room, but in an emergent situation, you can prepare a infusion, what we call a bag. You can prepare an infusion bag for a patient right there on the spot. So I'll take a vial of medication. I'll take, you know, some normal saline, pop that vial open, draw up the medication, and insert it into the bag for a patient to get an infusion. So that's what my preceptor was doing, and she was like, okay, we need vaso, okay, we need this, and I'm just like finding medications, handing them to her, preparing them and stuff like that. We literally gave that patient everything that they could think of that they felt was appropriate. 1, 2, 3, emergency fund. I think now we just have $10, so I'm just gonna pull out a 10. So yeah, we literally gave that patient everything we could think of because it was like, all right, y'all, so sorry. I just realized I did like I started the second half of my envelopes and realized that it stopped recording, like my device stopped recording. I'm so pissed. So it just stopped recording on me. I don't know what happened, but I'm so pissed. I did all that talking and stuffing and whatever, and it just stopped recording. So I think I stopped recording at like the patient didn't make it. So after that, my preceptor kind of came into my office and was like, I know that, you know, this is like a tough situation. You just had a patient who didn't make it. If you want to cry, that's fine. I understand, you know, But that's really when I made the decision that I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to be emotional, but what I am going to do is do everything I can to make sure that I am functional and I am able to perform this job effectively and appropriately. So I was like, from now on, I'm going to every code that I can. I'm responding to every code blue that I can, because I want to make sure that if the time comes and I'm by myself and there's no preceptor around to help me, I am able to help that patient to the best of my ability. So that was my decision I made. Some other people didn't make that same decision. They kind of like stayed away from it because they couldn't handle like the death part of it. But me, I was like, no, like I need to go. I need to be there. Even if it wasn't my patient, I was going to help out. And I'm the type of person, like, the thing with being in a code is everybody has to have a role, a clear role, right? Me as a quote unquote extra person, I don't care what you need me to do, I'm going to do it. If I have to pick up the trash off the floor to make sure that nobody falls in this code, I will do that. Like, whatever needs to be done to help this code function effectively, that's what I'm going to do. So by then, I did not really take on a primary role in the code. I wasn't like preparing medications myself or doing things like that. I was observing and kind of helping out where I needed to, or finding medications, grabbing them and stuff like that. But then we had a huge situation in our ICU. I was on my ICU rotation and we had a 600-pound patient who coded. We're at number 5. I'm gonna shuffle these first. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes! I'm so excited. Melissa finally gets something. This is my Melissa envelope. You know, it's just for like my birthday or something that I want to do for myself. So yeah, we had a 600-pound patient who coded. And when I tell you, so I responded with my preceptor, and like I told you, my ICU preceptor was very hands-on, you know, very proactive. He helped a lot with everything anybody needed. So he responded to the code and I went with him. It took 2 people just to hold up the guy's stomach, like they were pushing his stomach back so that they could use his pelvic area to find, like, to see if they could find like a pulse and stuff like that. It took 2 people just to hold up his stomach, and my preceptor was one of them. So I'm like, so who about to prepare these meds though? Like, who doing that? Who coming to help with that? Child. And that's when I say, like, as a professional, as a medical professional who responds to codes and stuff like this, you need to, number 1, know your role. Period. You need to know your place. Period. You need to know your role. And you need to be able to, so I have 2. I just picked up the second envelope. You need to like be able to focus, get in gear, and do what needs to be done. And that's what I did. So while my preceptor was busy, like helping the nurses kind of hold up his body and get him like stable, like not get him stabilized, but get him in a position where they could do their job, I was the one preparing meds. I was like, all right, well, it's on me. I guess I got to do what I got to do. So I'm, here you go. Here you go. Like, prepping meds, putting them together, assemble them, getting their flushes ready, like everything. At some, like, we did a code on this guy for an hour. So we had nurse students that were there literally like every round. Once chest compressions were done, you have to do chest compressions. Ooh, guys, I'm really about to like get embarrassed because I think you have to do chest compressions for like 2 minutes, I think, or a minute. But yeah, every round we had to switch out for a different person. So literally they had the patients, they had the nurse students and the nurses and them in line ready to switch out because it was so tiring doing chest compressions on this person. When you do chest compressions on anybody, you have to go deep, and then you have to allow for recoil, which is quote unquote bounce back. So you have to be like very meticulous. You cannot be lazy with it. You have to go deep. You have to literally put your whole body into chest compressions, and it is very exhausting, very tiring. So they had to switch out like every single round. While we're doing this, I'm prepping meds, getting them together, and then one of my other co-residents came to kind of like, you know, help out as well. So then I'm still shocked at myself because I'm not this type of person to like, you know, just, I didn't know I was the type of person to kind of just like take on like a leadership role or take on a role or something like that. So we're at 5. Let me shuffle again. So I'm like, I'm out of epi. I need some more epi. 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm like, go to the storage room, get me some epi. Da, 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 da. I'm like, all right, here, take this. I'm gonna go get it. Like, I was really like in my zone because I'm like, yo, whatever I need. Like I said, I was at the point where it was like, whatever I need to do to help out, that's what I'm going to do. And I want to make sure I can help take care of patients just as effectively as any other pharmacist. So that's what we did. Like, that was my first time kind of being more involved, taking on like a bigger role during the patient's code. So yeah. The last one I'm going to talk about, I did talk about another one, but apparently God didn't want y'all to hear that one, so I'm not going to do it again because my camera cut off. But the last one I'm going to talk about is the one that I had to actually do by myself. Like, the first one I had to do by myself when no one was there. So yeah, let's pick the first one. That's 8. Ooh, that, boom, bam, got it. Bam. Sorry, nah. All right, we got $5 going into debt. And no, I'm not going to stuff like $5 less from the savings challenge in my next week video. I'm still going to stuff the $20. All right. So again, patient coded. When a patient codes, you hear it over the hospital loud screen or loudspeaker. So they're like code blue, and they tell you what room it is and blase blase. So all right, they say code. They say what room. I'm like, I'm running over there. I just knew my preceptor was already going to be there, right? Like, I just knew they was going to be there. Bruh, and we have like an army of pharmacists. So I just knew somebody was going to be there, right? To lead this code in the pharmacy realm. 1, 2, 3, we have 4. That's Melissa again. Ciao. I ran there, got there, and no pharmacist was there. And I was like, what the fudge? I was like, what? Where's everybody at? So I'm like, F it. I gotta do what I gotta do. So I pulled it together in like 0.1 seconds, grabbed the code card, and I was like, all right, let me get these meds together. They like, all right, I need this, I need this. And I was doing it. I was giving them their meds. I was prepping everything. Yeah, I was doing the meds. I was prepping the meds. I was doing everything I needed to do. And then my preceptor showed up, and I'm like, bro, where you been at, dog? Like, where you been? Shoot. We got the 8th envelope, and that is tech. We're almost done, guys. I think I only have 2 bills left. Oop, tech is getting $10. So yeah, that was my first time like literally running the code by myself. And I also learned a huge lesson because they like at a, you know, I think it's like every 2 minutes, I have to double check, but it's like And I'm saying I have to double check because I have not responded to, like, I haven't participated in a real code in a long time because my current job, we aren't required to do that. And they don't really depend on the pharmacist to attend codes and stuff. Before I went on vacation, I did go to one because, you know, it was my patient and I just wanted to help out, make sure they had the medications they needed. But I didn't really, like, you know, I did start helping out when I got there, but that's not a typical situation for us. So yeah. Let's go ahead and shuffle. So yeah, I learned a huge lesson. Why is household always in the front? I learned a huge lesson that day because you have to, you know, administer epi, I think it's like every 3 to 5 minutes or so. And sorry. Yeah, you have to administer epi every like 3 to 5 minutes. So we try to do it every 3 minutes. And they were like, okay, when was the last epi given? And I said a time and they were like, no, it's not due yet. No, that's not right. And because I was still like a resident, I was still like, you know, a little like timid. And I kind of still am sometimes. I was like, all right, I mean, you know better than me. But then I realized I was right. And I realized that you cannot be like scared to stand up for what you know is right. Like, you cannot be scared to correct someone, whoever they are, even if they are the doctor, like the nurse. You cannot be scared to correct somebody, especially when it comes to a patient life. So that's what I learned that day. And I talked to my preceptor about it and he was like, $20 in medical. So I talked to my preceptor about it and he was like, yeah, don't ever, you know, hesitate to correct somebody. If you know that they're wrong, like, tell them that, period. And I was like, you know, you're right. You was right. Say nah, you was right. So we got our last one. And this is the only doctor that I've seen do this, and I appreciate this so much, and I love that. When a patient passes during a code, like, she always says, all right, we're gonna give, she's like, all right, let's give a moment of silence for Mr. such and such or Mrs. such and such. Like, not let's, all right guys, we're done, like, let's go. No, she's like, all right, let's give a moment of silence. And she makes everybody do it too. Like, let's give a moment of silence for Mr. such and such. Like, she'll know their name and she'll say their name and we will literally give a moment of silence for that patient. And I really appreciate that so much because, God forbid, if something like that happened to me, I would want the same respect. As a pharmacist, we are kind of underestimated a bit when people say a pharmacist. 1, 2, I'm not putting money in medical no more. Next. Next. 4. All right, Amazon Prime. I'm cool with that. When we say, oh yes, I'm a pharmacist, the idea is like, oh, okay, you ring up medications, like, and that's just not the case. Even for a retail pharmacist, that's just not the case. Like, we do so much that people don't even realize. We are literally the gatekeepers to the safety of your medication. Like, I've seen people order some crazy things for patients, stuff that just does not make sense. And we are literally the people who are like, bruh, this patient don't need this, or bruh, this don't make sense, or bruh, this is like a crazy dose. Like, please change this order. And people just really don't realize all that we really do. So I really appreciate all my pharmacists out there. You know, you're the bomb. We the bomb, you know, even though people don't always want to tell us that. But, you know, it is what it is. It's just the life we chose. Now, no, we're not medical doctors. We do have our doctorates. We are doctors of pharmacy. So, yes, my name is Dr. Melissa or Dr. Edmund, Dr. Wilson. But we are specialists in our pharmacy field, in the medication field. No, I do not have a medical degree. So no, I do not know more than a doctor. You know, no, I cannot treat you like I'm a medical doctor because they are specialized way more in their field. But when it comes to medicine, we know what we're doing. All right. I just had to put that little PSA out there. So thank you guys so much for sticking with me through the rest of this video. I really appreciate you guys for watching. If you aren't subscribed, go ahead and click that button down below. It really helps out my channel. Plus, you might want to go ahead and check out that video, the last one. Wink, wink. But until next time, guys, thank you again. Bye-bye.